Welcome and thank you so much for listening to Open Heart with Lisa. And before I begin, I always like to say this disclosure so that everyone will know what Open Heart with Lisa is and what Open Heart with Lisa is not. Open Heart with Lisa is not a therapy session with a psychologist or psychiatrist or even a marriage counselor. I'm not either of those. Rather, I wanted to have a candid conversation, a discussion primarily focusing on relationships and life issues from the male's perspective. I think that his ability to express his feelings and his heart gives us ladies, insight into his thought process. But today I want to do something a little different. I wanted the ladies to come on because I wanted the other perspective given on this question. If you've been listening, you've heard some of my interviews with a couple of gentlemen, and the interview is dealing with the question, do you feel dating should be held to the same standards as marriage? I just think it's a provocative conversation, and I have these ladies who will give their perspective. As you know, if you've been listening, all of my guests are anonymous, if they choose to be, and these two ladies choose to be. Now, gentlemen, I normally say this to the ladies, but gentlemen, I don't want you to get upset with my two lady guests because they're speaking from their perspective. They're speaking from their life's view. They have a story. We all have a story. So let's go into the world of my two guests. Let's call them, one of them, Janet, and the other one, DeeNee. And we'll say these girls are from, let them be California girls. They're going to be from the West Coast. So how are you doing, Janet and DeeNee?
Oh, wonderful.
Wonderful, ladies. So let's get right into it. And, DeeNee, I want to start with you. Do you think dating or relationship should be held to the same standards as marriage?
Absolutely not. And there's a difference. I want to elaborate on that. I have been married for many years, and now I'm single. Mm-hmm. So, of course, what I expect in a marriage is extremely different from dating. Mm-hmm. You know, dating is just more open and free. I'm free. I'm not, holding the guy that I'm dating to any extreme measures. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of like enjoying the moment. Mm-hmm. But marriage, when I was married, everything was planned out. There was children, mortgage. It was, it's very serious, marriage.
So here's the thing. It's very serious. And it is very serious because that's the person with whom you go before God and there's a covenant. Mm-hmm. But there are some. Well, let me ask you before we get into the nitty gritty, Janet. Do you feel that dating or a relationship should be held to the same standards as marriage?
No. It's absolutely two different lifestyles.
Right. And I think it's too. Well, you know where I think it gets hairy though, and I mean, I've been married. And I think that sometimes because it gets so tricky, I'm telling you, and I've been thinking about this subject for so long. Once you date a person and then you merge into a relationship, what I think sometimes get hairy, and you girls tell me how you feel, ladies, is when the heart gets involved and feelings of love, authentic love, gets involved. And sometimes with the expression of love and the deep emotions of love, there comes also a sense of a sense of ownership to a certain extent, and it's not that you're married, but I think that sometimes there are these underlying expectations. What do y'all think?
Well,
Go ahead.
I actually believe that dating is more casual, but there is committed dating where you're not married to a person, but you kind of like define the key word here, the relationship. Mm-hmm. You're kind of one-on-one. There's a lot of things that come into play with that. Like in a marriage, there's sexual intimacy. There's sometimes merging of assets and maybe people living together. See, that, they're not married, but they're a little beyond dating. Now, the casualness of just dating is just free and enjoy yourself. Now, when we start talking about those kind of relationships, people start having expectations of what they think that relationship affords them.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think sometimes it gets tricky.
It
because
does.
It gets this way, it gets tricky and it gets hairy, and I know some people who've been in these tricky, hairy situations because even though we say it shouldn't be held to the same standards of marriage, we start taking on some of the attributes of marriage and some of the expectations of marriage, yet we're not married. And that's where, for some of us, it can get very complicated. Because, it's one thing to say we're in a relationship because, you talk that, and then here's another thing, what I find, and I don't know about you, Janet, but Janet, let me ask you a question. Any relationship that you've ever been in, have you and a guy ever sat down and said, okay, well, we're in a relationship, and then you define what you both expect from each other? Have you ever done that?
No, that really doesn't really come about. It's just like you kind of just dwell into something. But I think that's a good way to, if you really want to be in that particular relationship, would be to have open communication about that. You see people just kind of drift in, well, we're together, this, that, and the other. But still, you're together, but you're separate, and you have your separate lives. But you have to have that understanding.
And here's the thing. Together means different things to different people.
Absolutely.
That's where the problem gets in. And, because my viewpoint of being together, might mean, we're merging in certain ways. And his viewpoint might mean, it sounds good, but we're not really that close, Right. And I think sometimes for a lot of ladies, that I've known and family members that we tend to, we're kind of more emotional with stuff when, a lot of times with the men, they don't sometimes move as quickly as we do in the love thing, Some of us fall in love very quickly, and a lot of them don't. What you said, Jerry? Sorry, I called you the wrong name. What did you say, Mr. DeeNee?
Well, I started dating late in life, so I'm an older, mature woman. I was married very young. So now in my maturity, like Janet said, the open communication is very easy to me to be honest with myself and to be able to define this dating relationship. Because after being a wife, there's no way I'm going to say that dating and marriage are the same. It's a different kind of commitment, and I stand on that. And sometimes the expectation in dating, if it's not defined, can be a little crazy. Because like you said, what I expect in a relationship and what a man might expect in a relationship is different. Because when I first started dating, I just said, I don't even like dating. It's about casual sex. And then I realized I have to be the one to define what this relationship is all about.
So you defined it, and what did you define it as?
I defined it as how the relationship works for me without being committed. Because and that word really means a lot to me, because marriage is committed. Dating is a lot more casual, even though I know that there's some couples who have been dating and they will challenge this. You know, they expect all the benefits of marriage, but they're not legally married. You know, they have defined it one-on-one, but I just say dating is just open. Now, maybe I'm a little old-fashioned.
Let me ask you a question. What do you mean by that? Dating is just open. What does that mean?
Open, meaning that when I say open, it's not a closed book where marriage has defined certain boundaries. Mm-hmm. You know, they define financial boundaries, who you know, who's going to pay and who's not going to pay, where we're going to live, how we're going to live together, you know, how many cars we're going to have, what house we're going to live in, what we can afford. So much, you know, one of the things I found in getting a divorce, I realized in marriage it's a business contract, really. Mm-hmm. In dating, I don't want that kind of stress on me. I want to be free. If I want to go out and say, darling, I have the tickets, can you go? Fine, you know?
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about that, Janet? Do you feel, well, let me ask you a question. If you are in a relationship with someone, what do you feel your obligations are? Well, I don't know if I should use the term obligation. It's a very strong term, but what are your perimeters? What do you feel the gentleman should expect from you or can expect from you?
Well,
what are you willing to give him?
Based upon the individual who that you might have decided to do this with, the date, I would think if we had some type of conversation, mm-hmm. and I said, well, this is the way I am, this is what I like to do, and I have no hold on what you like to do. You know, because I'm basically a free spirit, mm-hmm. and if somebody can come to understand that, then it's fine. But I don't think that. I think dating is more or less something that you just do and have a good time. You're not looking for just like some guys. I'm just looking for fun.
So if you're dating then progresses into relationship, what is the difference for you between the dating and the relationship?
Well, then that's when you'd have to have some serious conversation and go back and say, well, look, this is where we were about 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. Now we're into 9 months or something like that. Then discuss, mm-hmm. well, how do you feel about this? And mm-hmm. they say, well, looks like it's getting a little close. Maybe we should look at doing certain things. Then you say, oh, things are getting a little closer. Maybe that person's really interested. But until you really sit down and set the guidelines, because a man is going to choose how you want to be treated, and you have to let them know how you want to be treated. For example, mm-hmm. like I'm not a person that likes texting. I prefer that you call me. Don't take it for granted. I'm going to text you, because if you text me, you're not getting an answer. I'm the lady that likes to have the doors open, all that old stuff. Got to mm-hmm. really know how to line things on. Mm-hmm. So that would be the same thing if you're going into, when you start something, you can't change it, and that's what happens over the years. Things change.
Well, what can he expect from you if you are?
If that were to be the case, I would be consistent as to what I said when I agreed to say, well, we're going to do this, this, and this. I follow through. If I give mm-hmm. you my word to do something, then I do it. Mm-hmm. Simple as that.
Well, let's talk about something, and this is what this, we covered the first base. Should dating be held to the same standards of marriage? So both of you girls said no. Now, here's something that I think can get quite complicated from dating to relationship is money. Now, I've known certain people who feel that women, when they're in a relationship, the gentleman should financially, if we go out, he should always pay. If I'm in crisis, he needs to make sure he has the money. Basically, it's financial obligation. Certain women feel should totally be on the man. I know a gentleman who was dating a woman, and the woman came out and said to him basically, well, whatever I want, I feel you should be able to get it. And she was quite adamant. And she said, I don't feel I need to come out of my pocket for anything. Well, that day that she said all of that was the last day she saw him. That was the end of that relationship because he did not want to hear it. And I think one of the reasons why he didn't want to hear it, then I'm going to come to both of you, is, and I understand this, I understand, is an older gentleman. He wasn't in his 20s, 30s, and 40s, so he had lived some life. And in living life and having been divorced, having lost a lot financially, and also he wasn't in position, and I think some of us women need to also understand who we are dating. For those of us who want someone to foot bills and cover everything that we have, and I want to go out every weekend. You're not dating and I'm not talking about a middle class man. If you're not dating a very rich man, I think that sometimes some of the places that we want to go, you just got to be honest. Can he really afford this? Because before we get to most of these gentlemen who are not in their 20s and 30s, they've already had a life. Most of them have already had children. A lot of them have been divorced. Some of them, as all three of us know, can become caregivers to your parents. So sometimes their money is already allotted. And so when we start talking about where we want to go, I don't care if it's out to dinner and it costs $150. It might be out of his price range. So what do you feel, Janet, when it comes to dating a man? How much, past dating into the relationship, do you want a man who can take you out frequently? And when I say take you out, I mean that there's money attached, not a free something you go and you walking in the park that costs no money. But even with that, you got to get gas.
Yeah, that's not a bad date. Just walking in the park.
I'm in agreement with that, Janet.
That's just having a nice time. Money is not everything, because if you get sick and you got that person, they're going to be able to bring you a glass of water and say, look, I'll take you to the doctor. I'll do this. Money doesn't, I guess because I've never really had a lot of money, but I've always been able to share and do and help other people. So I don't look at that money thing, because if it's meant for you to have the money, that'll come way down the line. So I've always had to work for everything I got. So I don't look for somebody to be just giving me something. If somebody was giving me, I'd say thank you and see what I can do to help them. That's just the way I am.
What about you, DeeNee?
Well, I've had some experiences where I've had the opportunity to have guys in my life that could afford to offer me, fabulous trips, gifts, take me out and fine dine. But the same way I could fine dine, when I'm in the company of a wonderful person, I could sit across from him at the McDonald's table and have a wonderful time too. I'm just a little freer with that financial thing. And if a person is wonderful and things are tight, hey, I could pick up tickets too. I have invited, if I invite you to go out with me to a specific event, I think it is my responsibility to cover that. Now, if the guy says, oh, no, I want to reimburse you, hey, I never say no to that. But I do offer.
So you're reciprocal when it comes to money.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because I will not make having a fabulous time with a wonderful company so important that I'll put a dollar bill on it.
Right.
And sometimes, it happens. You never know where a person is in their financial station in life, but it doesn't take away from them being interesting, intelligent, exciting, and just good company.
Well, hold on right there. It's just good company. Let me just do this quick commercial, and we're going to come back in the last 10 minutes because I got a couple of things to ask you girls. I'm glad you're being honest also. And I'm also glad, and I think the gentlemen who hear this are going to feel quite happy, that you all have this perspective because, and there's nothing wrong, but some women have a different perspective. But I know the gentleman that I talked to, this is going to be a refreshing interview for them. Hold on for 1 second. So let me go to a commercial, and I want to talk about Inventing A to Z. www.inventingatOZ.com. If you are an inventor or you have an idea and you don't know how to take it from point A to point Z, Lisa Aisley, CEO of Inventing A to Z, can help you bring your ideal and turn it into an actual product. She is an independent vendor for QVC and other shopping channels. She can also get you into stores. So if you're an inventor, you don't know what the heck you're doing, go to www.inventingatoz and get into contact with Lisa Aisley and let her help you turn your dreams into a reality. Now, ladies, back to you. Here's another thing. Do you think it's important, or would you, if you're dating and if you're in a relationship with a man and he wants to know how much you make financially, do you think that's any of his business?
No.
Absolutely not.
Okay, both. That's the amen corner right there.
Yes, yes.
Y'all came in almost like a choir, alto and soprano. You said no and absolutely not. And so do you feel it's any of your business how much he makes?
No.
Absolutely not.
None of my business.
Suppose you were with a gentleman and he said to you, listen, I'm having a hard time financially and I'm short, and can you help me, and I need $800. How do you feel about helping him?
Well,
we're in a committed relationship, and my man is short. You notice I said my man, not a man, the man. My man is short, and I have it. Now, no budget is going to come before my budget, and I have it. And if I can loan it to him, I will loan it to him. And if I can give it to him, I will give it to him.
How do you feel about that, Janet?
Well, I kind of agree, but the thing about the way things are now, I would have it in writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I loaned you such and such, and I agree to pay you back such and such a time. Even if it's only $10 a month, at least keep your word, because your word is most important. And if you come up shaky on $800, don't tell me what you come up shaky on.
Okay. So let me ask you another question. Would you treat him to a vacation?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've already done that.
You've done that before, DeeNee.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, at that particular time, you know, not that I'm keeping a scorebook or anything like this here, the budget did not allow for him to go on the cruise. I found a wonderful cruise. The price was perfect. He could get the time off. We went and had a wonderful time.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So both
now,
of
I
you...
could have been on that cruise by myself, but I have no problem enjoying myself. But he made it absolutely fabulous. How they say, money well spent.
Okay.
I'm kind of scared to delve into that. For me, that might be like a midnight conversation. It sounds like an after dark conversation. But well spent on what? Maybe we do after dark.
We can do the after dark.
Well, you know what? I want to ask you this. I talked to a lady last week, or week before last, and she told me, and she said, Lisa, because I was talking to her about dating and relationships held to the same standard of marriage, you know, just off the cuff, and we talked for a long time. And she said, listen, she said, these men out here now, she said, they're looking, things have changed. She said, they're looking for you to take care of them financially. She said she ran into a gentleman, and, you know, they exchanged numbers, they were talking, and by the end of the month, wasn't even a month really, he was asking her how much money she made. They hadn't gone out yet, but he was telling her he'd love to go out, but basically it was like, you're going to foot the bill. And so I said, are you serious? She said, every man that she's run into has been like that. I said, get the heck out of here. I said, so I guess things have changed. She said, girl, if you're getting Social Security, they want to find out how much you're getting. I said, dang, you talking about reversing the heck of the roles. So have you all ever run into that? I haven't, but, you know.
No.
It's never been my experience to have a guy I guess they're looking for sugar mamas, because one of the things, like I said, I'm older and mature, so, you know, I've been around the block a couple of times, so maybe I can spot them when they're walking across the street. But, you know,
wait, how many
times
you've been around the block?
But in a relationship, like I said, if my man is a little short, that's not a problem for me.
Okay.
But I'm just not looking to take care of anybody. You know, I think a man should be a man the same way I feel like a woman should be a woman.
What do you mean by a man should be a man?
In other words, he stands in his strength. And sometimes, even with myself, I have to tell myself, Geraldine, you have to be pretty and pink.
Oh.
You know? So I have to, you know, even like I can cook a fabulous meal. Sometimes in my pretty and pinkness, I might serve it to you. You know? Or if you prepare a meal for me, you know, I might put the dishes and pots and pans in the dishwasher.
Oh. Well, you know what I'm interested. You know, you said something, and I want to go back to this. You put emphasis on my man. But this is where I think
I'm not spending my pocketbook on something that I'm sharing with 52 others.
Well, here's where
when we discussed and we defined the relationship, remember we're dating, and we went from dating to defining our relationship. Even though we're not married, we're committed to one another.
But this is what I'm saying.
Sharing our
let me just say
lives
this.
and enjoying our lives together. We just have not decided to get married. You're in your spot and I'm in mine.
This is where I think it gets murky, though. That's why I think it's just this topic is it's a complicated topic and it's a complicated thought process, because when I asked both of you all, should dating be held to the same standards as marriage, you said no. Now,
absolutely
in marriage,
not.
Yeah, but if we talk about marriage and commitment and covenant, the sexual aspect falls under the realm of marriage, right? And then sometimes I'm wondering, and this is just how I feel personally. This is personal talk, so we're doing girl talk so everybody can hear. Do I have a right? And I don't feel that I do, because I don't see dating and marriage as the same thing. Do I really have the right to say to someone, you have to be monogamous? Because this is where I'm telling you, it just gets so murky, because we'll say it's not held to the same standards, but when we get in what we call our so-called relationships, we're expecting some of the same demands and the same principles should be held in marriage that should be held while we are in relationship. Because if I'm seeing somebody, and I'm not saying I want somebody who's going to be all over the place, but I'm just being realistic with myself, okay? He's not my husband. Can I really get upset with him? And do I have a right to? If he chooses to see someone else. Now, because I was married before, if my husband had an indiscretion, let's say, I'm going to have a whole bunch of stuff to say, because I walk down the aisle with you.
Right.
But when we really sit down, do we really have all these? Do I have a right to say to the person who's not my husband, who might still be trying to figure out what he wants for himself, you know, to really get upset? Because suppose I meet somebody, and I decide, you know, this guy's really nice. Should I have to make a phone call, because he's not my husband, to say, you know what, there's a nice guy, and I really want to go out. He asked me out. I mean, I just think that sometimes for some of us, the pressures and demands we put on each other, and we're not under the covenant of marriage, becomes so complicated and stressful. I have known women who've almost had major meltdowns, and they're not even a person's spouse, because they're responding to actions and behaviors and things that he's done as if they were.
Yeah, that's
and I've just come to the point and place, and I mean this authentically, and I've been like this for years. I think that a person has a right to do whatever the heck they want to do until they feel they want to marry me, until they say, Lisa, I want you to be my wife. So I don't freak out over anything. If somebody says to me, and I mean this, Lisa, you know what, I saw somebody and I think I want to take her out, y'all have a good time. That's how I feel, you know. Because it's becoming so complicated. I'm telling you, I've seen folk having major breakdowns over people, men who are not their husbands, and we're treating them like we are married, and we'll say, "Well, I'm in a relationship." Well, that's not a marriage, you know, because then to be honest with you. I think about myself. Am I going to feel comfortable if a gentleman? That's why I'm very careful what my expectations are of someone. If I sit down with a guy and he says, well, Lisa, I expect A, B, C, D, E, F, G from you. Well, you got all these expectations, and we need to get married. Because I'm not your wife.
Exactly.
And I'll do things because I'm very reciprocal and I'm a caregiver. Very reciprocal. And I nourish. That's just who I am. I love taking care of the person, but I'm like that, period, with everybody. But if a man says to me, well, when I was married, I'm going to get in at a decent hour. I get in at a decent hour anyway. But my husband has the right to say, well, Lisa, make sure you're in relatively, at a decent hour. Let's say if I got in at 1 o'clock, I could see my husband being upset if he didn't hear from me. But does a boyfriend have the right to get upset because he didn't hear from me?
No.
Yeah, that's what, and I'm telling you, I've been thinking about this thing, and I said, this stuff is getting so, for some people, it's getting so murky, and it's putting a lot of stress and a lot of heartache and tears is coming out of a lot of people that I even know, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of stresses, because the way they're viewing the man in their life, they're viewing him as a husband, and he is not. He's not. So we'll say that, but the moment we get to the sex, it's like we all own each other. That's where the ownership comes in. But should it?
No.
No. Thank you, sir.
But you just called it, Lisa. The difference between being married and dating. And like I said, I was married, and now I'm dating. I love dating. It's free. I mean, we can define the relationship. When it's no longer working, I can move on. And we can be honest with each other because we're adults. No lie. When I was married, my husband was lying and sneaking. Now I don't have to lie. I'm grown. I'm an adult. I can make adult choices. Long as this relationship is working for me and I'm getting my needs met out of it, and you should be doing the same, and we're in agreement, and we have defined that, we can be honest. And I love dating. Now, when I find the right one, and when the right one finds me, then we'll go into what we need from each other, and we can get married.
But what about when you made the statement, my man? So let's say now you transition into relationship.
I always say my man when we talk about me spending all my money on him.
Oh. So how do you feel? Because how would you feel now?
You get a little ownership there. You don't want to be spending your money, and he's already told you, you're not the one. Maybe I should have said it that way. You know,
okay,
we're not serious, but I do enjoy your company. Can I have 800? You know.
Let me ask you, Janet, and then I'm telling you, we have run over our 30 minutes. But Janet, how do you if you're with a gentleman, let's say, and he says, "Well, Janet, let's have a relationship," and I think we should have a monogamous relationship.
Who's gonna be monogamous?
Both of you.
When it gets to the point where we want a monogamous relationship, then we can start defining the terms of marriage.
Right. As Beyonce said, you should have put a ring on it.
There you go.
And we're going to close right there.
Put a ring on it.
Put a ring on it, baby. And please make sure it's something that I can see. In other words, no chips. I want to thank everybody for listening to Open Heart with Lisa. I've had a ball with my girls, Janet and DeeNee. Y'all got to do another one because you girls are a lot of fun. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. I'm talking so fast, I'm mispronouncing my words, but I hope you've enjoyed our interview. Just so you know, you can go to my blog and listen to all of the interviews at www.openheartwithlisa.com, or you can go to my YouTube channel, Open Heart with Lisa, and we're also on Facebook. Once again, thank you so much for listening to Open Heart with Lisa, where his heart and her heart matters. God bless you.
Thank you.